to the neon lights. Let's take a ride into the gray where the future is alive. We're talking about the Web3 revolution, energy systems and the deep end evolution. Yeah, it's a digital symphony, a decentralized energy in the world of connection. Oh, so South is our destination. Web3 fascination. Get ready for the revolution. Here we go.
So, what
Nice.
did you think about what did you think about the song, Mark?
I think we're part of a revolution. So like
Yeah.
it's starting like a revolution or evolution, maybe better, but like kind of it's nice, very nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's 100% AI generated, by the way. So we are not musicians, but I mean, actually, I quite dig it. So it's I think it's nice. So
Yeah, it worked out well.
and we have a prediction that in next year we have this melody festivals all over Europe, like and I think that these will be AI generated, like already next year. I think the songs or many.
So the maybe like the Srcful song will be the first like to play there.
Yeah, let's go for it. So, yeah. So welcome to this episode of Source Talk. We are now live with a guest, Mark Ballandies, from YHI and Onukoi, and also first and foremost, I think, a researcher, academic researcher in this area. One of very few that is focusing within this particular sector of, I would say, the Web3 area, where we dive into the DePIN, the centralized physical infrastructure. So I'm just going to say, like, welcome, Mark. So nice to have you here. I mean, we met at Breakpoint last year, but I mean, and I've always thought that I would like to bring you and talk more about DePIN and make a deep dive into this subject. So please introduce yourself, by the way.
Yes, I mean, you already covered it quite well. So like I have a background in high performance computing. It's in a PhD in crypto economics. So I looked into the design of blockchain systems, so how to design them. Also, that they are aligned with the values of the stakeholders who are participating in the system. Yeah. Also looked on the token incentives and how they impact human behavior and what are the emergent properties in the system. So this was my PhD. And then I joined Onukoi as a co-founder, as you mentioned, like one of these open hardware DePIN projects, basically for global navigation satellite systems. And I'm still part of Onukoi, but currently like mostly focusing on YHI, so like which I also co-founded. I'm also the president there of the YHI Association. So we're also having like a Swiss legal entity behind, and there we are looking into, particularly like we see us like in YHI, we're doing this weather and climate intelligence. So we have these three-sided markets, so to say. So we're collecting weather data from weather stations. We then have an expert community who uses this data to make forecasts, which we then sell to our customers and clients. So it's like what we're doing at YHI. And like part of Solana ecosystem. We met at Breakpoint. I think it was a really nice and experience to like see us physically, and also feel very, very much connected to you and Srcful. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and also just not to confuse all the people. I mean, it's very like you're from Switzerland and we're from Sweden, so I mean those are like not the same country. Just saying for those of you that listen in from all over the world.
There's Germany in between, some other countries.
But anyhow, so the topic for today will be a deep dive into DePIN, and also just to mention, I mean, it's so cool to have people on board that actually have PhDs in crypto economics, because it at least says a lot. So I myself have a PhD as well, but it's not in crypto. So I'm actually not that, I would say, knowledgeable in this like the Web3 space, but more in the energy space, because I'm coming from an energy engineering background and then now going into crypto. So for me, I mean, the DePIN way is, I would say, that the way for people like me to actually go into crypto, because I want to make sense of it. I want to link this to physical resources. DeFi is for me a little bit still hard to understand, to be honest.
Yeah.
I like
That's really what I also we also observe like it started like in Unocoin was really exciting because like it really feels like the next wave of people like basically wanting for these ideas, which kind of the core of Web3, like co-ownership, co-creation, so like kind of doing things together like collectively, and it was like kind of restricted to this digital realm, like as you said, DeFi mostly, and some other applications, and now it's becomes physical, and I think it's but people are still like they resonate very much with these core values, and yeah, makes people excited, and I'm very happy that like you are also a part of this. It also gives me some security that it makes sense what we're doing here. Like there are like more and more people coming. So like one of my co-founders like is like basically a control engineer, and for him it also makes sense, and so I think it makes sense what we're doing here.
Yeah. So let's you had a slide deck as well, so we'll try to align this, and those of you that are listening in and well are not able to see what we're seeing, we will try to explain what's on the screen, but also know that if you're listening into this podcast, there is also a video version on YouTube, and then you can see our faces as well and the slide deck. So
yes,
yeah,
like that,
go ahead,
like
Mark.
the slides are the slides were really meant just like for us to discuss. So Frederick, I think you're very good in it, but just like take up the word, and then we start interchanging with each other, because like it's deep dive into DePIN. I thought like giving here like this slide with all of these headlines which were like around. I think it's like already like half a year old, so like there are much more headlines now, but basically DePIN is this new vertical within Web3 facilitating real world adoption, and they're like over 500 projects now, like after I think like a Messari report, and we with Yhire are part of it, Srcful is part of it, Unocoin, and like many other projects, and some people say it's like kind of the next big thing in Web3. And here's like, what is this really? And I think the best is like kind of to show an example. So like I always like to talk about Helium, kind of as the OGs in this space. I mean, there were like some of these ideas were around before, but I think Helium really manifested it into a global movement. So I'm showing you on top right, like kind of a map with these LoRaWAN gateways, which Helium is placing. So like these physical devices, and they're covering like big parts of Europe and the US. And they recently had like collaboration with T-Mobile, like in the US, I think, and also in Mexico, like collaborating with a bigger like mobile company. So we really see like these DePIN, these Web3 ideas, which are kind of digital, like kind of they're moving out and like kind of getting like connection with people out there.
Yeah, and you mentioned about like that we do have like a movement of some kind. I mean, DePIN wasn't even a thing. I think the name DePIN, or the acronym DePIN, was I think invented 2 years ago, or was it even?
I think it was like November, like I think a year ago. So like it's like 1.5 years almost, something like that. And it was a poll by Messari, and so like basically we aligned under this term. But like I think you're much well aware. But like for the audience, like there were these other terms like machine-fi, and also token incentivized physical infrastructure like TPIN, and some other words. But really these DePIN kind of started to take up, and I think it's because it sounds like DeFi, like a little bit, but DePIN. So I think for the Web3 people, it's familiar. And like I mean, we can also talk later a bit more about it, but I really see kind of DePIN as these this umbrella term, or like kind of this marketing term, maybe for the whole Web3 industry to unite behind, to kind of prove the world that Web3 and crypto really has meaning. Because like I think for many people out there, crypto is like kind of shady, like you're getting scammed. There's no real, I mean, some people get rich, of course, this is nice, but there's no real benefit for society. And I think DePIN is like kind of this thing where crypto can prove that actually, look, we can coordinate better, we can build this physical infrastructure, we can have co-ownership, not just in the digital realm, but like in the physical realm too.
Yeah.
So very promising, I think.
Yeah, but and that's, I think, one of the things that I see is that, I mean, we have all these believers that have been like Bitcoin maximalists since the very beginning, and like extreme liberal view of economics and ownership and all, like, but and then when you're now linking this to physical resources and I would say real business, like traditional business models that could be done in another way, we are now, as you say, we're bringing in people that actually see the value. Like, oh,
Yes.
well, that makes sense. Well, how are you able? I mean, and the Helium is, for me also, I mean, it's, you always see Helium as one of the OG DePIN projects. And I think if you ask someone, how is it possible to build a network before there isn't any usage?
Yes, it's like, and I think like also like recently there's this discussion, like basically Vitalik. I think I have a next slide. I can just maybe go to the next slide. Like basically Vitalik was like now treating like, or like warping, I think it's called, like about DePIN.
Yeah.
And basically asking what's the difference to StoreJ and some of these other ideas which were out there before, which maybe didn't gain this traction, or and I mean, on the one hand they were early, but I think on the other hand it's like really that like there's kind of this small difference between StoreJ and also Helium. That basically Helium are these physical devices in the real world which kind of are kind of fungible. So like kind of you have basically non-fungible. So like you have them in different places and you cannot just interchange them with each other. So like you need to have a station really in my house and one in your house, kind of to make sense. Whereas for StoreJ, it's like still like kind of in these digital realms. Like you have physical infrastructure, but kind of it doesn't really matter where they're placed. So they're kind of fungible. And that's,
it's like instead of like hashing power for Bitcoin, you have like storage instead. So
yes,
because I think also I'm not sure, but I think in some of the conversations that I've read, like just the past days, also from like someone was arguing that, well, Bitcoin could be considered as the original DePIN project.
Yes,
well, that's maybe a far stretch of the definition, but what's your view of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think in theory, like you could say this, I think, but then it doesn't really make sense to differentiate these different verticals, I think. And like we just like submitted like also like to the workshop, like the DePIN workshop. I mean, a very light paper, but we're kind of trying to shade more light onto this thing. And we're basically saying kind of that this three-sided market structure, which is like kind of like very much connected with DePIN, Bitcoin doesn't really have it, because like the supply side is directly the thing which links it with the customers, with the clients who use the network, and you don't have these like additional service sides where like you have a different community like around. So, and in DePIN projects, they're very much characterized that you have like kind of these hardware providers, like who kind of connect into network, they stream data or do something with it, and then you kind of have a community on the service side, like you're Srcful, you're building like kind of the tools around it, you try to organize them, and this is also in itself a community-driven initiative. So you not just have community on the supply side, but also on the service side, and I think this is like kind of unique and but I also see this discussion, and I think in the end, I think it's what people want to say when this comes out of it.
Yeah, and also, I mean, maybe it doesn't matter, I mean, in some sense. So, but also, I mean, well, definitions are in some way good because you're able to classify and categorize things and put them in boxes, and that makes you understand what it's all about. So, yeah, I think that...
particularly if you want to have a systematic access to the things, and then maybe like as researcher, like eventually start to analyze them, and it's like really true.
Yeah, but you have a Google search interest graph here. So
just showing that, like I mean, like because it's a deep dive into the DePIN, so I think it really makes sense like now to look at DePIN. So because like I think we're just at the beginning of a steep curve up where it's trending. So I'm showing here Google search basically trend for the word DePIN. We had like one bump like around last November, maybe it was Breakpoint. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like I
maybe,
think,
yeah,
yeah, because like before I think Breakpoint was really interesting because in the beginning it looked like that there would be not much DePIN, and then we had like kind of this DePIN day and so
Yeah.
many DePIN site events, all just coming. So like I would say this was the first jump, and now we're part of the second jump, and like Vitalik just mentioned it. So I think many more people in Web3 will now look at it. I think
Yeah.
just since yesterday. So
Yeah, I mean, if Vitalik is just mentioning it, it's something for sure that many will probably.
yes, yeah. So I'm. Let's see. I think this podcast comes to a very good point in time.
Yeah.
Yes. So like, I mean, as the next slide, like just like because like I didn't put too much content because I knew it's also like a podcast. So, but here like going into this three-sided market nature of
Yeah.
DePIN systems and how they're kind of intervened with each other. So we see here like a triangle, and on the supply side we have these infrastructure providers. So like I think in Srcful, those with solar panels and having these energy gateways, so kind of they're connecting it on the supply side. And then on the service side, I'm actually not 100% sure what Srcful is now doing there, but you're kind of connecting them. You are
and we will have this proof of control mechanism. So the service side will be for like stabilizing the energy grid. Obviously, there's value in the data as well. But I think where the big monetization will be is most likely where the control part, so the virtual power plant. That is the
virtual. I find it very interesting. Before I met you, last summer I had been at a wedding, and then I met someone who also like works in like kind of or had this idea around this virtual power plants, also like kind of being kind of a force in the energy market to negotiate better prices for the end customer. I think probably it's also something you're looking at, and I found it very interesting, and I think it makes sense. Like kind of
and I mean the market for virtual power plants is like a large traditional business market. There is a lot of players in that area, and there is also, I would say, a good means of starting a traditional business in that area. So
yes,
it's
they were
just
more
that you can,
I think.
you can actually leverage on the. I would say you can do these kind of things in a much more effective way with the Web3 approach. I mean, and that's what we're essentially trying to do, like Helium did. They could have built the largest IT network anyhow. If we just, I mean, but it would have been hard.
I would even argue it would not be possible. Like later, like I have like these two inputs, but like I think like coordinating it, like kind of the operational costs are too high for hierarchical like structures, like do top down, like with the traditional company. And also like kind of the capital investment is kind of high. Like so like the capex and like kind of solving both with basically with tokens and with maybe like these governance structures like DePIN, like it makes a lot of sense. So like in this sense, on the service side, I also see like all these smart contracts, like kind of the token incentives, like kind of it's like kind of the service or like the platform development, the maintenance, what's happening. And then you have like this third side of the this three-sided market where you have the users who in the end they want to benefit from the infrastructure and from the services which are built on top of it. And I think, and this is like kind of where I see DePIN as very unique or new when it comes to Web3, is that basically supply side, kind of one could say, it's like kind of, you could say like it's still Web3. I mean, in the end, it's like, but basically we're talking a lot to Web3 people to start like basically incentivize them, placing things and like these things. We have the service side where basically both worlds, they come together. So that you kind of have like Web3 people, but also people like as you, like from the industry who have to have very good understanding of what is actually the service you want to provide. And on the demand side, it can be again like now like this very Web2 way, or like even Web1, so like traditional people in the real world, and you need to talk to all of them, like so getting the Web3 natives up to the people who have never heard about Web3 all at the same place. And then kind of it's a lot about community and organizing them and like kind of scaling. And I think the nature of the communities on each of these sites are very much different, and like getting everything under one umbrella. I think that's the biggest challenge for DePINs. I think, but yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
But if there weren't any challenges, it wouldn't be that much fun, wouldn't it?
yes, yes, and it seems like Srcful is doing a really good job here, like just by looking how your Twitter engagements are going up.
we are progressing. I mean, I would say the last week have been a little bit. It's been a crazy week in terms of new people onboarding into the community. So
yes, but this is like in the end, this is like really like these complex systems. So I think you're doing a lot of things. You're pushing, nothing is happening, and then you kind of come to this tipping point, and then it just jumps into next equilibrium state, like kind of. And then again, like I think one stays there probably for some days, some weeks, and then again, boom, again. So like I think one should not get discouraged if it's not going like up all the time, because I think there are really these jumps in complex systems, and what DePIN is about, like building a complex system, like with different actors, they're all interacting, and really cool.
So, yeah, but I mean, if you were to sort of define DePIN, as you said, like it needs to be some kind of supply, demand, and service. Like that's it. At the triangle of these things in some sense.
Yes, we have like a different contribution to this workshop. Like we basically tries to link it to science, or like to academia, basically to existing literature. Basically, you have like this participatory sensing literature and citizen science literature, which is like kind of there. And what we're saying there's basically like DePIN is token incentivized participatory sensing. So basically, you have like a lot of knowledge already, like in participatory sensing and citizen science, and what kind of DePIN is doing, like introducing token incentives. And I would probably even go a step further, not just token incentives, but also like different types of coordination mechanisms which are on chain and like this. But that's like really what is a new thing. And otherwise, it's like existing ideas, but with this new technology, like really making it work, I think, on a global scale. Yeah, like I brought here like an example for YHI, like for these three sides.
But please also tell about YHI.
Yes.
I mean, you're just jumping into YHI directly now. So
yes, I didn't want to make it a YHI like exclusive thing here, but yeah, I mean, this like basically what I'm showing here is like kind of the problem which we have at the moment in weather intelligence, and I think we naturally see how YHI or like DePIN, a DePIN project, can fit into it. So basically, you have like a very diverse set of different people collecting weather data at the moment. Yeah, so like you have like hobbyist communities, which I find very exciting. So you have like basically enthusiasts who have their own weather station at the house or something like this, and they're even organized in some communities and networks, and they are all over the place. So you have like these hobbyists, but you also have these governmental institutions who basically collect weather. And in between, you have like private companies also doing like sometimes having own weather stations, sometimes collecting these different data sources and enriching them. So like it's a very diverse ecosystem, but because of that, also very siloed. So it's not so easy to combine this data. And also different regions in the world, they're not so well covered, like Africa, for example. So there's not so much weather data there collected. And and then based on this data, you have kind of experts doing forecasts and models. Yeah, and even here it's like, again, heterogeneous geographically. So like in some places in the world, less good models, less good forecasts, in other areas better. But also those who perform these forecasts, they are not, often they work for governmental institutions. So like kind of they are providing the service for free. And so and because of that, it's like sometimes, not so, you cannot, it's basically not so well fitted to the customer's needs, so to say. So kind of giving this base layer of forecasts, and now private companies are coming in and they're using these forecasts, but then these services these companies provide they have very high price endpoints. It's not so easy for the customer to access them. Maybe this is the third side. So like customers are kind of having a problem of getting good data and forecasts, and what we see YHI now, like, so basically it's next slide. So we kind of in these three different groups, we see like kind of this platform YHI position, where we want basically crowdsource these different data, like from governmental institutions to private companies to community networks, and incentivize them with blockchain-based tokens. So like that's fair, it's transparent. And
But
kind of
how do you
yes,
know? Like, I mean, if you go the community approach, do you have a
yes,
problem of like, okay, what's the quality of this
yes,
data, like the
yes.
weather
That's a
station?
really good things. Like I mean, it's not here in the slides, like, but I can talk about it. Because like yes, so like quality of the data is a problem, in particular for YHI. I mean, it's in general DePIN, I think, a problem, but in YHI, we're like an open hardware project. So we're basically allowing all these different data just from different stations to come to us. So
Yeah.
like there's like this closed hardware approach where you basically sell your own devices, like to basically get data into your system. But even here, you still have the problem because you have like kind of physical attacks, so to say, you could say. So when you have a weather station, it depends where you place it, and you get different
Yeah, exactly.
recordings. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like even if we would have our own hardware, how to access this data which is coming, like and then there are different level of attacks, like up to the hardware level and like this. So I think in the end, like rewarding data like in this way, there's always like attack vectors, and now it's like the question how you can improve that, and what we do, why we kind of try to use cryptoeconomics, like to design the incentive system in a way that it that basically this discouraged this behavior, a little bit like this Bitcoin idea that you basically you make it economically not meaningful to attack the network, and we try to do here the same, basically through 2 or 3 mechanisms. I mean, one is like kind of tying like the rewards more to the usage, then basically saying the demand side will like basically very quickly identify which data is like kind of not so useful. But then also like having kind of a 2 token system, or like even a 3 token system. We're kind of having our own token for the supply side, and then kind of the market regulating the quality. It's very new. We have a new VIP on that, like our improvement proposals, like VIP 14, YHI improvement proposals. And then we go into the details on how we actually want to solve this, so that we have incentives from the beginning, but at the same time, because at the moment, we as YHI, we don't know what data exactly we need. So at the moment, we're crowdsourcing, and we know that there's value in most of these data for different applications, but we want to incentivize people now, but also kind of tie it to the future gains in the system, and so this kind of have a fair and transparent platform. But yeah, in
So you're sort of
Unocoin,
building like a market within a market to solve the problems of knowing which data will be more valuable than other data.
And,
okay, that's very interesting.
On the base level, then there might be, we're also developing our own AI instance, like kind of a validator, which also could access the data and like these things. And in the end, like we see it as an iterative thing, like how to address this challenge. For example, in Unocoin, it is much easier to kind of like in this other project I'm involved in, because on the supply side we have like reference stations, like these real-time kinematic reference stations, like RTK, and they basically get satellite data streams. In this scenario, we can more or less trust the satellites because they're government owned, and so there's some errors in the satellites, but in general there's no attack, or we assume no attacks, and then you can basically triangulate between different satellites, and over a specific time frame you actually can validate 100% if a station gives you good data or not. And this like makes it a very nice use case for DePIN, because you can have a open hardware system, but even have a very good oracle or validator in this sense. So it's like
but weather, I mean, if we just back to weather, I mean, weather is also something that might be the easiest thing to people to understand ever.
Yes.
I mean, it's always something like, if you don't know what to speak about, you can speak about the weather. So it's a good actually takeaway for YHI that
yes, and this like really demand side, and like there's so many levels in discussing here, but like I think like these DePIN projects which go kind of a mobile strategy on the supply side, if you connect it with a mobile strategy on the demand side, could be really powerful. So it's like something we're also looking at in YHI, so kind of connecting these things. But what I'm actually myself like most, like I didn't take the slide here. I mean, I could search for it very quickly, but on these expert sides, we also envisioning kind of like on the service side, so basically people, like basically data are coming in, and then we kind of see an expert community kind of using the data to make forecasts and kind of have a friendly competition in different forecasts. So you could have different meteorological organizations participating and entering the forecast, and we have very good feedback that they might be interested in that. But you could also have private companies or individuals, even hobbyists, who do their own forecasts, their own weather models, kind of. Basically, if you combine them like in a collaborative setup, kind of in a prediction market setup, you could even improve forecasts. And this is like a very well-known thing to do, like out of optimization. There was this, I don't know if people know about it, but I really like to talk about it. It's like this Netflix challenge existed, like I think in the 2009 or something like this. 2010. I don't like basically what they did. They wanted to improve the recommendation, like the video recommendation on the platform. They had different parties like competing with each other, and they had a threshold in how much it should improve. And basically, none of these parties were really able to meet this threshold. But then a team came around and they combined the top 3 solutions, like the top 3 recommendation, like recommender systems, basically together, and they improved. It was a significant amount of improvements. Like even combining a good solution with a worse solution results in a better solution. And this like can be motivated by complexity science and collective intelligence, and like this, even humans can do this. Like wisdom of crowds is a word here. And kind of we're trying to build this on the service side, but it's like kind of more a long-term thing. So like it's not. I mean, it's a lot of work. But,
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, in terms of wisdom of crowd, I mean, aren't there like these kind of examples that if you have a bit, like a large amount of people and they like just guess the number of beans in a jar or whatever, and then you just lump all these predictions together, and then you actually can end up with a pretty good prediction, better than each and every one individually could do. So.
Yes, it's a phenomenon. It's repeatable even. So there's a very good BBC video on it. I'd like to share. Like maybe I can share it afterwards with you. But I do it regularly at children birthday parties, and even it works with children. Like it works with them. Like it's a really astonishing phenomenon. Also, basically telling us why maybe democracies are working. Basically, like the wisdom lies in the crowd, and the more people you connect, the better are the forecasts, and the better you can kind of adjust society. Like so,
it's very interesting philosophical take on actually Web3. I mean, because when you're tokenizing physical assets, if you're also tokenizing decisions, and essentially if you have a token, you also are part of a network and do have a say in the network in some sense. I know that you're also into DAOs, so but anyhow, I mean, that's very interesting. Just I'm going to share my screen very short. This was in November, and we're talking about artificial intelligence and weather forecasting. Google DeepMind, they announced the GraphCast team, like a new transformer model, as far as I understand, for weather predictions, which was I would say considerably better than anything else, and in much less computing power, as far as I understood the press release.
Yes, it's I mean, it's not that. I think in specific for specific predictions, it's better. For example, rainfall. Like rainfall, it's better than like these not on a global scale, but where they tested it like in the traditional setup of weather modeling and the simulation, basically where I come from, like this high performance computing background. Basically, you have like these super clusters, like these and then you basically use a lot of computational power to kind of proceed like different PDEs, like partial differential equations throughout time. Huge computation power needed. Not all countries can do this. Not all communities. And it's like a very high engineering discipline, so to say. You really need experts. And now, like kind of in this meteorology world, like kind of there's this break happening with AI models now, which are kind of comparably very easy to deploy, and basically democratizing kind of weather prediction, because like you can have much less computing power and like this, and so we are we're still trying to find our role here, but it seems like that combining both approaches into a platform would make sense. Like having these meteorological parties, like because there's some things they can do very well, like for example, wind directions and like these things, like to predict, and then like combine it with AI models, and so let's see what it brings. But this is like really just happening. So there was a major conference in the US, the Meteorological Society, and I think AI hit there like a bomb, and like it was like the main topic. And there will be now the European Meteorological Society conference in, I think, September, and probably it will continue. So it's like really a thing which is happening right now. Yeah.
And in terms of of AI, I mean, but there is this meme like sell me this pen meme. So sell me this pen, and the answer is it's AI powered. So you could also put some emphasis on. I think that all companies are probably doing that now. That everything is AI now, and but Wi-Fi isn't like. The main pitch isn't AI powered, not just yet.
No. I mean, we're positioning us like that, and I think it makes sense in our case. Like as I said, like for this having like this as a product to the customer, but also at the service side to kind of validate the quality of data. Because like if you would have such an AI model, the AI model would need specific type of data, and we could basically incentivize the data which for this AI model is needed. So at least we would have some benchmarks. Yeah, and I mean the third buzzword we're very happy about, like in Wi-Fi, is like kind of this refi, like this regenerative finance movement. I think Srcful also very well fits into it, and I think you're also like part, as far as I see, of this Solana refi group, and it really, I see like DePIN and refi, the intersection, like this real world impact. It's like really what Web3 will move to, I think. And if AI is enabler and helps like even more people to bring into the space, and let's use it. Yes. So I mean, you just mentioned like it already briefly. I brought here this logo, like basically kind of lays the foundation for DAOs, I would say, because like basically a DAO, like these decentralized autonomous organizations. And here's like this logo is basically yin and yang sign, which I'm showing here, but with a community in the one part and the organization on the other part, and kind of what DAOs are about. And I also feel like these DePIN projects naturally, because they are DAOs, I think you have like communities of different types of communities, and you kind of need to now use them, empower them, or build something, or direct them. And you kind of need the organizational structure to do so. Otherwise, you would just have chaos. But the problem is like if you have too much organization, it becomes very rigid, and you kind of fall back into these top-down control things, which in the end break again, and doesn't make also people happy and like this. And I think like if one designs them well, so there's some balance, and they can really support each other. And there's like this very nice quote. I even wrote it down here, like because I wanted to read it, like from Daniel Ospina, kind of one of the OGs of Aragon, like really a forethinker when it comes to DAOs. And he kind of says like a sense of community brings trust and well-being, which enable better organization. And effective organization can enable value flows that sustain community. And in this way, kind of you form these super powerful, anti-fragile organizations. And I really like this, and mapping it to DePIN, because like you're building these global infrastructure networks in different countries with different regulations and all of these things. So basically the operational cost is just so high because you need to have people maintaining them. You need to have so basically and using kind of a decentralized setup with this narrative of a DAO, like all these tools from a DAO, can really drive these operational costs much lower, because the community is just crowdsourcing them. And that's I find really the power of using it. That's what I have here. I mean, I have an example how we're trying to enable this in Wi-Fi, and also in Onokoi, actually. It's like basically from this organizational point of view, like you have the community, but the community is there, but now how do you organize it? That it kind of it keeps this community character, ideally maybe self-organizes eventually. So like we came up with this DAO onion, which was also motivated by some very like early people.
And now we see sort of a circle with a lot of different. Like, it should be an onion, I guess.
It is an onion. We call it a DAO onion, and it's basically you have these concentric circles. So it starts from the outside. Basically, you have the public kind of who does not know about Srcful or about Wi-Fi or anyone. So basically, they're just out there. They don't know even about DePIN. And now they kind of find one of these cool projects out there, and they become a follower. They read about it. They check out Twitter, like, and make the number go over 1,000, and like these things, like they become followers. But then how to bring them closer? And then we see like kind of the next level, it's kind of the friends. So basically followers who start interacting with the community, like the inner circles, and kind of this kind of next things, like you need to have mechanisms in place to make people friends. And then once they are friends and you have these bi-directional interactions with them, some of these friends, they start to do more, to align maybe to the common vision of this organizational structure, and then they become supporters. They do some activities. So for example, in YHI, we have different types of roles in the supporter layer. We have ambassadors who basically they spread the good message. We have like builders who help like building. We have like experts, like many like academics who are like supporting us, like in the different domains we are connecting. It's like kind of a good way to bring people closer and to make them feel part of the organization, basically. And then when supporters like kind of say, oh, look, I want to contribute like 2 days in a week, like really, it's like kind of a thing, I want to come closer. They can become contributors and eventually core team. So they're kind of this permissive structure. And then the core team, how we do is like kind of self-organizing. So we don't have a hierarchy in the team. And we basically say we have areas of competence and you can claim them more or less, and then you can migrate towards them. And then areas of competence, they basically radiate out again. And they have their own rules, how they organize themselves. And they basically, in each layer above basically or in the center basically can accept the outer layers. So basically core team member can bring in new contributors can bring in new supporters can bring in new friends, and it's like kind of eventually that's like how we trying to organize this community of people, in our case being interested in weather and climate intelligence. And but we think like this structure is like quite generic. So it's not like not our invention. So like I think FTW DAO, like Isla, she's like the founder of the DAO Swiss, like a DAO for DAOs in Switzerland. She had like a 3-layer onion structure. We connected here with some literature because like having like 5 layers kind of makes it. You can connect again with academic literature.
And in some way, this is about sort of doing like the organizational structure in a totally different ways. Like you can, whatever, okay, this is a nice idea and you might want to be a part of it. And instead of just being a consumer or being employed by a company, that like you're actually able to pitch in with your support, expertise, and take part of a movement and also get rewarded for it. I mean, if we talk about tokenomics, I mean, then you also have an incentive in some way. So it's a cool way of building a structure. So
and basically the 3 markets sides, they also fit into that. That's like kind of what we like about it. For example, the supporters, also our miners, like those who contribute hardware, they're also supporter. Like by default, because they are really contributing to the network. And that's like how these things potentially might be structured. It also links a little bit, like, I mean, for those who maybe have an academic background, like because there's like this concept of self-organizing teams. This exists also like in business literature, like this, like kind of like there's a company in Switzerland which is self-organizing, I think 100 employees, and they recently got bought up by a bigger company. And now they basically will implement self-organization out of this unit into the whole company, like a larger one, I think thousands of employees. So it's like really a thing which is also coming. But the difference between a DAO and I would say a self-organizing team or like company in this sense is basically that you at some point in this DAO onion, you have a hard border, basically inside and outside. So maybe after contributors, basically these like full-time employees are core team, and then part-time employees are contributors, but then you put the hard organizational boundary, and then they say this is the outside world, this is inside world, and then DAOs eventually like it doesn't really exist. So like kind of it's really floating in, and it's more difficult sometimes.
It's not like a formal structure in that way. I mean, and also that might be the point of it. I mean, if you start to make a formal organization and putting board members and these kind of things, then it's not a DAO anymore, if I understand it correctly. Or
yeah, I mean, I think you can. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, this comes now to the legal world. Like in DAO Swiss,
Yeah.
we're talking a lot about it. I mean, I have here's the next slide how we do it in YHI. I think maybe some people, cause like you have the DAO now, and now the DAO has organizational structure maybe, but then there's also the real world and there's the legal world out there, and how can you connect this and like how so like, and I think there are several options. I mean, it's not but here's like basically one. And what we did at YHI is basically we started like we were a DAO, and then we said now the DAO needs a legal wrapper, like kind of to have a representation in the legal world, because like the demand side usually is very traditional. I think also for you and for Srcful and for, it's they need a legal counterpart, otherwise it will not work. And and so basically that's a YHI association in our setup. And I mean, the different legal structures one can use. What we liked about the association is actually the Swiss one is already very democratic by default. So like basically all the power lies with the General Assembly. And what you can do in Switzerland is basically you can connect voting rights in the General Assembly of the association with tokens. So basically we can have token voting within, which is legally binding in the association, but also use the token voting for other things. So like, as I said, we have these improvement proposals. We can use the tokens to vote on them, which are maybe not part of the association, but at the same time, an improvement proposal could also be a motion within the association, and then makes it even legally binding to the association. And that kind of, in this way, we are merging kind of the digital world and the legal world. And in the end, really, having these counterparts. And then kind of we have now basically the YHI association. They have a governance committee, so to say. Like kind of, you need to have it by law in Switzerland, like kind of those who makes operational things. And basically at the moment, but this is still, we're still exploring, but we have a governance committee and different commissions. And basically we're saying whoever is part of the governance committee or the commissions, they're kind of core team, or maybe even contributors like in this DAO onion structure, but they are voted in by the token holders in the General Assembly of the association. So basically it's that kind of legal representation, but it will also be the core of the DAO. And basically the same people vote on it. Basically it's the same thing. And then kind of we see it at the moment as a very good way to kind of combine these both worlds. Like there are other setups which also can work. I think you could even use like shareholder structure, but it makes things more complicated. And I think it doesn't work too well. Ideas like, I think originally people used also foundations a lot, like kind of foundations. I would say like problems with foundation is that you kind of like you cannot really control the board of the foundation, like the steering committee. They're disconnected. I mean, if you make it broad like this, it's okay. But it's more difficult to connect this with tokens. So at some point, or like with these democratic ideas. So,
but is this? I mean, you talk about this from the Swiss perspective. Is this like from a Swiss perspective? Does this differ in like in I would say in the US or in the
it's definitely. Asia, or, I mean, it very much differs from place to place, and it's like really. I mean, I have some insights out of my unique perspective, but there's also like different people very active in this field. So they're different. Like I think there's a Delaware thing, I think in the US, which is the kind of new legislation very close to DAOs, but also having some. I mean, all of these legal structures, they also have problems. So it's not no free lunch in general. A lot of people go to the Marshall Islands nowadays. They also have kind of a DAO thing, but it's not. I don't know. Like it's a own field where you need to gain expertise.
And this is a little bit confusing for me coming into this world from the side. So, and we are, I would say, we are diving into this area at the moment, and a lot of things are still unclear. I would say for the roadmap. We like in Srcful, we do have our tokenomics set up and everything, but I think a lot of the what you're speaking
Yeah.
about now is a little bit on the table still for
Yes,
for
and it's
decision.
so many levels. Like, I mean, we can have another conversation. Like, but like also privately, of course. But like,
Yeah.
with I mean, tokens have own regulations, but then also comes to governance, and it's broad field. I mean, there's some good lawyers out there who also like specializing in them. Like, we have one like good one, like Kian Scherli. I'm happy to mention him, like in Switzerland,
Yeah.
who also has expertise with other legal structures, like in not just Switzerland, but in the end, yeah, one needs to form an opinion, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's like this was his DAO part, but we already mentioned it, like tokens in DePIN projects. Like, I see like DAOs as a coordination mechanism which DePINs can use to kind of drive down operational costs, and tokens are kind of the main mechanism to drive down capital expenditure costs, like kind of the capital investments you need to do. I mean, in the end, they're also coordination and they align with a common vision. If you do it well, if the token itself, the token value aligns with the vision, then it's even more than that. But in its very simplistic way, kind of these reduced capital expenditures, which it can basically help. So like, so I think for Unocoin, we calculated, I think in order, like in Unocoin, to build this global infrastructure of reference stations, it would cost like 70 million as the upfront investment cost, just the capital expenditures, not the operational cost. Yeah, so just capital expenditure in the beginning. And then there's basically no market in the first place, which still just has to grow, like and like these things.
Exactly.
So it's or like there's a market, but not that big to cover these. Like, so basically, it's a collective action problem, and tokens kind of help to kickstart such a thing, basically. And in principle,
but Mark, when
yes.
when will we see, I would say, the big traditional companies picking up on this? Because as you say, I mean, what we are talking about here, we already believe that. I mean, we are already believers in what we're working with. We think that this is the future, but we are as like still a very small part of the total world economy and the way to build things in the world. But when will we see like a big multinational company incentivizing people with tokens and building infrastructure?
Yeah, I mean, in the end, like token incentives, DAOs, and all these things are just tools. They're just tools. Like technology is always a tool, and you can use it for both sides. So I mean, you can use token and incentives not even to build anything which is close to decentralized and having top down. But I think eventually this will fail, just because like you cannot. But yeah, okay, but I mean, tokens we see on different layers already, maybe not even connected with blockchain. Like in insurance companies, very often now you have these point systems, like kind of you get some benefits. So like these ideas there, you have like these miles and more programs and like these different loyalty programs. But like now DePIN specific and maybe using tokens also like in the spirit of the DePIN more. I mean, I think it started. I mean, it starts now, like with, I think it started, like you saw, like in the first slide with T-Mobile now, they're kind of collaborating with Helium. So, I mean, they're not using it themselves, but they're kind of using Helium. So kind of they're using it. And I mean, and this would be actually what I would like to see. So kind of having these different DePIN projects, which are kind of their own player as a platform with different companies they can plug into and then use them, instead of a company developing it on their own. I think it doesn't make sense out of philosophical reasons and practical reasons. But but I think it just like makes more sense to have it this way. So I think this is a very promising thing. And I think in general, the mobile carriers, they're all very much aware what I see. There are different initiatives in the background that I have seen, and there's also like a kind of a startup by here in Switzerland, like Moveflix, which is also trying to innovate the space. They also deepen, but in close collaboration with these existing players. Then I know, for example, that Bosch also started to collaborate in this deepen space with projects, and I'm pretty sure that they have also their own experiments in the labs running. And so I think it's starting, but it's still small.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you have them
yes,
a couple of models here on the
yes,
so maybe we could just iterate through them.
yes,
That's interesting because that's what
yeah,
make also I mean what's a DePIN is also a part of the tokenomics. I mean that's linked,
yes,
isn't it? In
yes,
some way.
yeah. We see it like as like what I mentioned, like this paper. We even see it like as token incentivized participatory sensing. It's kind of deepened. So the token plays this role, kind of, and then you have like different models out there. And I mean, and even within a model, so many flavors, I would say. But like you have like kind of you can have a single token in your economy, and basically, or like in your platform, not even economy, which you use for something. And this token can be structured in so many ways. I mean, you know, like Bitcoin has a capped supply, but you can also have tokens which have an uncapped supply. Then you can have a non-fungible token, maybe a token which is very unique, and you can basically you can distinguish it from another token. So they're not like money. Basically, you have a dollar and another dollar, and they look the same. So you can have such a property within a token. You can have tokens which are non-transferable, like these soul-bound tokens which are out there now. Like really different ways. Like also what gives value to a token? Can you vote with it? Can you use it to buy a goods or service? Is it just reputation? Like I don't know. Like so like these single token models, and then you can start basically starting combine these tokens, which is like still. I mean, this was basically my research project, what I did in my PhD. It was basically Future ICT, it was called. And we basically built a multi-dimensional financial system. We basically, like, different externalities are represented in tokens and how it can basically form better equilibrias if you have more dimensions in which, like, but we also see it now in practice, like kind of emerging these two token models. So in DePIN in particular, like burn and mint. So usually I have next slide on it where I can go also into detail how we do it in YHI. But you have one token, which kind of this classic token we know. But then you have a second token, which is more like, which is non-transferable, basically. And they're kind of linked with each other, which results in very beneficial properties for a DePIN system, because like these non-transferable token can function in like kind of a credit way, which like traditional companies are aware of. So when you have like a cloud storage, you buy credits. If you do a different service, you buy credits, and companies know what this is. And if this is a blockchain token or not, it doesn't really matter for them. And if you link these credits to fiat value, basically say, look, this is $1 is one credit, then you basically can build a product for companies very easily in these two token model. But of course, then you can get crazy and extend it, and you can have NFTs representing different things, voting rights maybe, and different tokens, and it can.
But I think also, I mean, the drawback with making things too complex is that like the people, the community, and also like the demand side might not understand what they're looking at.
Yes, and this we really had at Unocore. It took me a long time to get this burn and mint model in place. But even I saw a 3 token model back then. So maybe we're now trying to do it at YHI. But I mean, in the end it comes to communication. Yeah. So like, and I think like for example in burn and mint, these credits, data credit, it's basically the only token one needs to communicate to customers. So they don't really have to know all of the other things. Customers are just interested in basically in getting a good service and to comparable, like a competitive price. On the supply side, then again, I think you can expect a bit more people trying to understand it, because they want to get rewarded like this. And so like, I think it depends a little bit on communication, but in general, building a complex system always should happen iteratively and basically starting small experiments, seeing what works well. And I think the best way is and we see it in Helium. So you can see Helium. Helium started basically with a 3 token model, like they had burn and mint and kind of a shareholder token. And now they're extending. Now they have sub-DAOs with own tokens, but they also kind of have these voting tokens now, which kind of to lock, which also a different type of token again. So like kind of, you can then start to better calibrate your system, then increasing the control variables basically. But for a DePIN project in the beginning, yes, basically starting either with a very known model or like, starting something new, but maybe iteratively I think it makes the most sense. I think so too. Yeah. What is Srcful planning?
Yeah, we at the moment we have a burn and mint equilibrium. That's we're going to burn tokens to keep a deflationary model in that sense. We're
Yes.
trying to look at what helium is doing and actually trying to copy that as much as possible. Obviously not what helium is doing at the very moment, because we are not there yet. So I mean,
Yes.
they have a more complex structure now with IoT token, mobile, voting tokens, etc. And we're not there yet. So we'll most likely align this. But at this moment, we have the source token. And I would say that's it at the moment.
That's cool. And
also trying to keep things simple. I mean,
Yes.
we have discussed it quite much on like, should we have like an energy credit token? Should we also tie that value to a euro or a dollar, like what helium is doing with the data credit? But the problem here is that we're talking about different services as well. So
Yes.
I mean, if data credits, yeah, it might make sense, because you can actually put a value on this and be competitive. But in the energy market, we are already used to very much volatile prices. There are different prices in different markets. So tying
cool.
like a kilowatt hour of energy to, like, okay, let's say we tie it to 10 cents, euro cents or whatever. Well, it actually might not be a very competitive price in some markets, yes, some markets no. And what I'm saying is that it's hard to actually tie this value.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool problem.
Yeah, so we didn't want to go that route. So we don't have a cap, I would say. So we're trying to keep it very, very simple in that sense. We're rewarding members with the source token. We have a section of what we call proof of source, which will decline over time. And that is like the model for incentivizing of building the network. Like what we have in the beginning with like helium, you have proof of coverage. Obviously, you can still get rewards for proof of coverage, even though there are no sensors using your gateway for sending data. Sort of the same mechanism we call proof of source. So like you're providing value of building the network. I guess even for Wi-Fi, even if no one is using my weather data, you get rewarded because you're contributing to the network.
Yeah. Like we pivoted the thinking a lot of times, but actually very recent we didn't have this, because like in the end there's like different business models again, but because we're open hardware, we are not really having revenue streams coming in when we sell hardware. And I think like for DePIN projects which sell hardware, it makes really sense to already give out tokens, because like kind of you get fiat kind of in the sense that kind of it makes from business case sense. Open hardware projects a little bit less. But we found now a structure which a little bit went into the direction of helium, but not the full way, and gives us some flexibility. So like if you're interested, like our VIP, like 14, like Uros just put it down. So it's like kind of we are trying now to incentivize, but at the same time, because we don't know what the value of the data is and all of these things, we kind of keep it loose. Like you have this point system idea in DePIN projects, which we also didn't like it too much. Like some concept we like, so we are kind of trying to find the middle ground between point systems, but also already having it very concrete. So that's kind of like, and so it's something which is new, and we also would like to have, get feedback. So like if your intuition, like let us know.
But it is certainly quite hard, and yes, we have been thinking about the tokenomics a lot. I would say that at this very moment we are thinking about it extensively, because we're in the Jupiter Launchpad, so we have actually need to put in numbers, but we are not yet backed by a VC or an accelerator. We are still bootstrapping, and so we are also very free to maximize the reward for the community, so to say. So those, I mean,
that's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like Uros and me, we're also always happy to join. Like, I mean, if you need also some feedback or discussion, you can also always let us know, and we jump in and we can brainstorm together. Because like what you said, it sounds really interesting. So it sounds like the energy market is already much more Web3 native than other markets because of these volatile prices, which is like kind of a key characteristic of Web3, and
Yeah.
it's nice.
Yeah, and when we talk about energy prices, that is one thing, and then we have markets for the control part, the flexibility services, which is even more volatile. Then you have a really volatile market. But if you talk about volatility of the energy markets, I think it was during this fall now, or was it last fall? I think it was in Estonia. There were up to a couple of euros, I think, in max for 1 hour, even kilowatt hour. It was like extreme electricity prices.
Okay.
And then you have
But on
in
the spot
Sweden,
market,
you have
or?
negative prices
Yeah.
yeah, talk about a crazy market. You actually have negative prices on the market, which is quite strange if you talk about a commodity as energy, and it's actually priced in negative numbers.
Yeah, the Swiss people like it a lot. They take from Germany the power during the day and put it into their like water reservoirs, and then they release it again, and then they make money on both ends.
Yeah. It's perfect.
Yeah, it sounds like ready for disruption.
Yes. Yeah. And that's also numbers game here. If you talk about, we already have the big players, the big energy companies. They're already like working in these markets, and as I say, it's a volatile market. But if you own a big power plant, if you have a big water reservoir, or like you're already in these kind of things in the traditional market, I would say. But then like getting all the small distributed energy resources, like each and every one on some kind of market. It's more or less like how are you able to crowdsource weather data from millions and millions of users, and the same thing with IoT networks. And this is the same thing, but with, I would say, smaller resources. So this, obviously we can, the Srcful, we talk about that idea. Obviously we can go big, but that's not where the market is for this kind of community approach. We will get big because of the many small numbers, I would say.
That's really, and like intuitively, but I think you have talked about it, like kind of, as far as understood right now, it's like kind of virtual power plant in the sense of getting the positive money out, so basically like selling it. But like a virtual sink would also be nice. Like if you have all these batteries, maybe from people like charging the cars, and then kind of now you have negative prices, and I just buy energy and store it into batteries, or like, I see it really coming.
That's definitely also going to happen. We are integrating with hardware, and that's actually our use case is very dependent on actually installing new hardware, because you need to be very close to the source. You need to be able to communicate over a local network, or even with like Modbus and wiring. Like it's actually so you need hardware, and you need low latency, and you need to sort of be quite close to the source, and that could be an inverter or a battery. In some sense, if you just want the data, like I just want the data, it might not be. The inverter might already be connected to the third part, to an API, but you won't be able to do all the fun things with, like, you can't build a virtual power plant, essentially. So.
And this is what I understood. Like you already put a lot of research into it, huh? Like it's like 2 or 3 years development. So
we've
ready to run.
I would say 2 years, more or less. Yeah.
That's really
so. 2 years in a bear market, it gives you some time to work.
It's very similar to Wi-Fi. We also, like, since 2021, also like our infrastructure, like we build it, but also like our business model, like just we pivoted quite often. It's like closed hardware, different types of customers, like until you kind of find where you want to be. And this during a bear market. So I think those who made it, they will hopefully be rewarded for this, like keeping the flag up the DePIN flag.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, maybe we should continue. We're already over an hour. who is listening in this kind of long talk, I don't know, but I mean it's actually really interesting discussions for me as well, and perhaps someone else.
Yes, I mean, like I have some more slides like on this burn mint token model, and then also just some knowledge nuggets like which we could talk of, and then in the end it would go very deep again, and I think this probably we drop like this taxonomy work we had on DePIN systems and how they differentiate from each other. But I think this would I think probably latest there people would drop off, but like this burn mint model, like I'm just showing here. Like actually in YHI now we have this 3 token model. So like we also have a YHI token, which is not here like illustrated at the moment. So it's like kind of the core economy, and we're using this burn mint model, and what is for us basically differentiator to like, as I learned now, like the energy market is like that we really have these more conservative customers on the client side, basically, who don't want to. I mean, maybe eventually they will, but at the moment they would not like to use a cryptocurrency which is going up and down all the time, and that's like kind of the main motivation for this 2 token model. So like you have 1 token which is like more like a traditional blockchain crypto token, which we call WNT, or YHI network token, inspired also by Helium, of course. And then basically this token, you can it's transferable, you can trade it on a DEX and or on a decentralized exchange or a centralized exchange, and you can also change it for fiat. So kind of it's a token as you understand it. But then we also have a data credit in the system, and this data credit in the end is like needed to pay for system services, and you can only get it by basically burning these network token. And we do it in a way that kind of data credits is tied to a fiat currency. But these data credits, they are non-transferable. So they're kind of in this new terminology, soul-bound, but this idea is like much longer around already. It's like these data credits are not transferable, so no market can form around. So basically, it's not a stable coin. So we're not building here a stable coin. It's like really just a system, internal accounting system, so to say. And so in the value of
sort of same as the point system if you go by miles or whatever.
Yes, but a little. Yes, true. Like point system in the traditional way, which are non-transferable. Like point systems in DePIN now they're transferable, and then we would face some problems basically. Like because like then you could not guarantee these prices here, because in the end you would kind of try to beat the market. So when you basically say it's there, I mean a lot of things. It's but our network token, basically this traditional token, the traditional Web3 token, gives access to governance in the system, and basically people have access to it. But what we said now, not directly. So here in the between now, we have like this YHI token, which basically then makes you go there. But that's like a topic for a different discussion. I just have this slide inside because like my co-founder, collaborator Uroš, he has like he did a very deep analysis. I mean, we did in collaboration, but he was the main brain behind it, and it's like published. One can look it up and how to kind of design these tokenomics in a like only this burn tokenomics model a little bit better. So like basically, so it's like here.
I know. I listened into Uroš talk about the Goldilocks of tokenomics, or I think it was called. So it's. I mean, you can think that okay, this should be simple, but it's actually. I mean, you need to spend some thinking behind it. I guess. So.
And even this then. I mean, it's like kind of it's built on this rationality assumption of actors, like kind of, which I think in DePIN makes a lot of sense, because like usually supply side are very rational people. I mean, there's some community also, but many people are also there for the return on investment, so kind of rational, and demand side is also rational. So it's like kind of, it works here, but maybe using burn mint in a gamified setup with this analysis like would probably less hold, I would say, because like there's so much other things also involving. Then you come to non-rational or like behavioral economics and like these things. Then I mean, it's a very new field, these tokenomics, and there's like kind of a active research field on on DeFi. Like there's a community on it, very like like basically they look in these automated market makers and bonding curves, and there's a lot of academic research, known facts basically. And I see them slowly also coming to DePIN research, and I think hopefully eventually we'll also get better tooling and insights into these different models. But yeah, it's also the beauty now because we can just do without not knowing, and when you don't know, you can do more things.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
like where we are. Yeah, and I have here one slide. It's not very like basically the slide was contributed to the DePIN report by IoTex. I'm not sure it was included in the end. Also, like some of the other slides I was showing, they were also there, which are in the same
Yeah.
style. So they kind of we did it for this, but like these DePINs, I really see them kind of as a force for good in the end, like in the sense of it gives people co-ownership in these infrastructures, so it can be a meaningful tool for people to have to better their life circumstances, in particular also like in countries which are like basically have low income areas. It
Yeah.
helps a lot. It kind of gives this coordination, so this coordination problem, but it also, in the end, just for the customers, I think it will improve the services and infrastructures. Infrastructures are failing in many places of the world, and they're deteriorating. So DePINs could be an answer also for the regulator. And I think
Yeah.
this is like really why regulators are getting interested. And I saw that Srcful got like some funding like from your
Yeah,
regulator.
we got some funding from the energy agency, and
Yes.
obviously it's probably not just because of DePIN. I'm not sure if they are even aware of that term, to be honest. But
Yes, but I think
yeah.
they're very well aware that all these different domains, that there are
Yeah,
problems and challenges in it.
yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and yes, in Unocore we also like got even like a bit larger grant, like from the from InnoSwiss, like in Switzerland, which and they're aware, and I think these things are coming. So like I think, and this is like kind of what I meant in the beginning, like DePIN is probably the umbrella term for Web3 to have like
Yeah.
this nice face to the world where all these cool ideas are understandable by people outside, from the regulator to businesses. Because like with businesses, you can talk about capex, like capital investment and operational costs. With regulators, you can talk about, in particular in the West, about co-ownership, but also improving the infrastructures and the kind of needs to be done. So this makes me very optimistic. And yeah, we also had to work back then on which chain to choose for a decentralized physical infrastructure network. So what are the criterias a project should fulfill? We also publish it. It's a blog, so it's not. We try to be scientific there, but of course we didn't have the full rigorousness which you would put into an in something you want to publish. But still, like we looked at many systems. I think that we looked at 35 layer ones back then. But this was also a time where like these deep and focused layer ones were not around, like IoTex and Peak. And I think, well, probably there's even some more, but it would change probably some of the assessment. But I think in general, what is like important for deep projects like this high scalability. So kind of that's a chain. I mean, it doesn't need to probably be super high. It depends probably like on how much you want to put in chain, but kind of having the scalability and low transaction fees. Because like again, like for traditional people, they're not so used. I mean, they're used for large cross-border payments, maybe from one world to the other, like kind of paying high fees, like banking transaction fees. But in general, for small interactions with something, they would not be used to pay high transaction fees. So it's like kind of when someone as DePIN wants to select as a blockchain to build on, the scalability and transaction fees are something which make a lot of sense to look in. But also what we had, and I think it's not even here in the bullet points I'm showing, kind of the ecosystem around the chain is really helpful. So like I mean, last year in Solana, I think they were the first, like, Peak is also really strong and IoTex really strong, but Solana, I think, one of the more mainstream chains, which are very strong in DePIN, and it's just nice. You meet someone at Breakpoint, you can talk and having that.
I think those things matters a lot. I mean, and also one of the big strengths about doing things in the Web3 community. I mean, that's.
Yes, it's and because of the open collaborative nature, like I mean, there are tendencies sometimes to then also build castles eventually, like and you see in this chain war and everything. But I think the beauty is still that there's so many people who really just try to find synergies and create win-win situations, and that's I think that's like really important to choose such an ecosystem. In particular, if you're not like backed by a lot of money or something like that. Like otherwise,
But
you
I
can
mean,
always
now we're talking about like DePIN's key selection criteria for
Yes.
L1. But I mean, if
Yes.
you are a DePIN, why shouldn't you build your own L1?
Yes, I mean,
Yeah.
we saw this like Helium was
Yeah,
doing
they
that.
did it, and they I mean, they obviously went into Solana
Yes,
eventually.
and I think GeoNet was planning it. I think I'm not so sure if they're still planning, but I mean, it's really, I think it doesn't make sense because like it's like another layer of complexity you're adding. You know, like you have the two-sided market, but then you also want to build a blockchain on the bottom, which again kind of is at least a two-sided market. Yeah, so like which you also need to coordinate, and then there's so many interdependencies, and I mean, and then you need probably different tokens and everything. So it's just too much. It's just too much, I think.
Yeah, it's instead you could say that if you're any kind of company and you start like, oh, you know, we need to use a database, but let's build that database software ourselves. Perhaps not.
Yes, and it's like now you have initiatives like Peak, for example, where maybe, and I mean, which builds this basically this database and Solana, and you have IoTeX and others like there, and Polygon is also like a one to mention, of course, like in this whole ecosystem. But yeah, and I think potentially there will be like depends like about this composability and integration, and eventually they will form an ecosystem where you like a toolbox plug-in things together. I think we just discussed before this conversation like a little bit like how like potentially like data from Srcful could be streamed into YHI like and as a source for beta predictions. At the same time, maybe YHI like making some analysis like which can function again as a validation or oracle for Srcful like and then coming to that level, like it could be very much plug and play, and then you build your own thing, and then you can specialize much more and more, but using the same tools of governance and token incentives to just improve society. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like I see this very much.
Yeah, but we don't see that many DePINs using Ethereum. If we or do we want to dive into that discussion?
We can. I mean, not directly Ethereum. I think no one is. I'm not aware, but Polygon is used definitely, and it was back then the second. I think even the second largest ecosystem before the specific L1s for DePIN came, like Peak and IoTeX. And yeah, I mean, the main barrier in Ethereum are the high transaction fees, which maybe for financial applications still makes sense, maybe on some level. I don't know, but building something, it makes it difficult. Yeah. So I don't know. What's your view?
I mean, also, but I mean, my view is like usability of what you're using. Like, are you even able to give rewards to members without actually paying super high fees? Are you able to utilize the blockchain for some kind of transactions that need to go quick? I mean, that will be super important for us. For instance, if we're going to utilize blockchain for the control part, which is at least in our roadmap, which then we need to be under like a certain amount, like 400 milliseconds might be enough for actually doing that. And just think about it. Instead of sending instead of opening a WebSocket and doing this like a traditional Web 2 way, like with a centralized server, what if we could put the control signals for like controlling devices on I would say on a physical grid with a blockchain approach? And that wouldn't be possible if the blockchain weren't super performant and also low cost and high speed. So those things matters, I think, and that really gives a new level of transparency. And the cool thing also is that if you go into the security aspect of things, like you eventually we are in an area which is, I would say, very, very high security aspects of energy markets. Just think about what would happen if like a state that is not that does not want to do good things with your country can control thousands and thousands of distributed energy resources. they will be able to actually do really bad things. The grid will go blackout in a short amount of time. Just turning things on and off, and we don't need to have that much imagination to think about who would be able to want to do these kind of things. But anyhow, I mean, then putting the cryptography of these blockchains and the transparency and like what's already working in these kind of systems from like actually utilizing a wallet, like that kind of technology directly. So that is at least one of our visions for what's to come. We're not there yet. It will probably take some time. So I would say the control part at this moment is very much a traditional signal, I would say so.
And I think this is a beautiful vision. Like, and I think, and there, I think there's some work already have been done, like on Ethereum or like also others, because in this governance, like in a societal way, is just control in some sense. And I think distributed control is what these DAOs are about. And it kind of takes, you don't need this millisecond realm, like definitely not. So like, and you can use different chains, but yes, going to the next level of control, like these physical infrastructures, it's different. But in here, I think that in the end, the principles which were applied in these different governance mechanisms could also be applied at this control level. Like my further group at ETH Zurich, they now look into how using these basically digital democracy mechanisms within the control of traffic-like systems and basically controlling traffic flows, which still does not need milliseconds. So I think it's like kind of a little bit above where Srcful is at the moment, or wants to go, I mean. But that's a trend in this direction, I think. And it's a cool time again. I think probably it's always cool, but it really feels empowering at the moment.
It's much cooler now than it was just a year ago, at least. So
yes, that was a positive sentiment. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I just checked quickly. These were like kind of the slides which I think made sense to show. I mean, later on, like I go now like into this one academic work where we try to give like kind of a language to describe DePIN systems and maybe just a problem. Maybe we stop with a problem and then we see. But I think the design space is so huge. You know, just what you said, like now we said like with this control level and then governance aspects and token aspects and then just the technology and then customers and everything. So it's really a large design space, and navigating here and knowing where one can innovate or what can still be done or what has been already tried to learn is, I think, still very difficult. And that's, I think everyone is invited to join these discussions. I think that's as a message I want to give. No.
Okay, should we end the discussion, or
we can have a loose discussion now? Like, but I think it doesn't make sense to show the other slides. I mean, I have one slide of an idea we're currently exploring in Weihai, like about this idea market. I could briefly, like, I think I have this still in this slide at the end. I need to check. I'm now just flashing through. Sorry. This one. I mean, it's again because like I'm a big fan of digital democracy DAOs. Like this is like basically where my heart's beating. And I saw, or like what we see is like kind of, you had like this explosion of creativity all the time, like DAOs, where like you had the DAO in 2015, like a lot of DAOs and like basically people rethinking everything. And then you had like chaos, a lot of things were not working, and people, I don't know, they said we need more structure. And then they looked at Bitcoin, which has like kind of one structure, and now the kind of the structure replicated itself, which is I think one useful tool. But I think it's one tool, and if it's just one tool, it becomes again very dictating kind of. And Bitcoin, we see already problems like that some people can use this process very well and others not, and it's like kind of I think with coming particular size of a system, it becomes very bureaucratic again. So and what we see right now, so like what's the picture? I think I would explain this picture, but what you see now is like a year ago, I think there was this meme on Twitter which was going around that people will say, like, there's a picture and someone is sitting, like basically a group of people sits inside of a boat, and one person sees a hole in the boat and water's coming in, and he says like, oh, look, we have a hole in the boat. And then people start discussing, oh, technically it's not a hole, it's a special port, or I'm not listening, I'm eating here, or what is the problem? You don't like our boat, and like this. And basically, this was like a synonym or like a picture for DAO, like not being able, like basically being inefficient, not able to act, or I don't know. And I mean, here comes a lot of theory, which also have some blog posts, can also share, like, but basically you have like these different concepts in complex designs, like self-organization, collective intelligence, and then digital democracy, which kind of connect these different things. And the problem is, like, if a DAO does not design these these mechanisms well, then you kind of have a problem, because like in this picture here, you could say there are two problems which basically are happening. The one is like kind of a digital democracy problem. So there's like a lot of deliberation happening. People are talking, but the decision making is not quick. Yeah, so kind of like basically they need to decide quickly to act. Yes, like, and if a DAO has not the mechanism to decide quickly, then it's a problem. Yeah, so the other view on it could be saying it's a self-organization problem. The person at a whole knows it's a problem. It knows that it's a problem. He sees it. He's scared. He already tries to fix it. And all the other people are actually not really needed. It's like the only thing which is needed, empowering the individual to act, basically. And then let the person act. So I kind of more the self-organization aspect. And then self-organization works through enabling people to act and then giving them feedback. And this is basically very quick. Yeah, so basically acting, feedback. And if this, then you have these bird swarms as a picture, like kind of self-organizing structures, or human body, like something like that. And in YHI, what we are trying to do is like kind of, because like what we see is like kind of these VIP process, like these improvement proposal process, kind of these DAO-wide consensus finding and then binding everyone top down to this decision, which eventually will take a lot of time and not so quick. And sometimes I think there are a lot of decisions also within a DAO which don't need involvement from everyone. And we have this concept of an idea market now. So basically taking crowdfunding to the next level. Because like in traditional crowdfunding mechanisms, what you have is like someone who has an idea also needs to execute. So you go somewhere and you say, look, I want to do this, and then people can donate money. In the end, they get something, but you always need to have the idea and be able to act. And we kind of want to split this, so kind of creating an idea market where people can place ideas, different people can fund it, and different people can execute it. And then maybe the DAO evaluates if it has been executed or not, but then kind of having a market, like basically making this more efficient in order to basically, in the end, not everyone needs to be involved in every decision, which are maybe low-level decisions, so to say, like should we create a new logo or not, or should we have a logo competition? And maybe some people say our logo is good, but someone says still I want to have a competition. Then they do a competition and a very beautiful logo comes out, and then maybe we take it. So I think these local initiatives should be enabled, and this could be done through such a mechanism. So we have it in one of our VIPs here, and we also wrote about it recently in the context of the MetaDAO, like these DAO, which is here's a question: who wants to support building this? We had discussion with different parties, and I think this is like kind of my pet project. But I think eventually we want to build this. Yeah,
I will definitely check this out. I mean, and also, I mean, there are so many ideas, and like we got an idea from I think there were someone that went into our server and said that you should change your name. Okay, thank you. But how do you actually? I mean, if you get ideas from the community, and then like how are you going to evaluate this? And
yes.
So
like and evaluating decision like this digital democracy aspect, deliberation basically. And there are some really cool tools which are even in the DAO, like which are Web2, which are not used in blockchain too much, but like. The country of Taiwan, they have a very cool, basically one very cool tool they have. It's also in this blog article I'm mentioning it. Like there are tools to help deliberation, and I think this was something which DAOs could profit a lot. Also DePIN, like to channel these creative ideas from the crowd, basically.
I will definitely check this out, and hopefully people that listen into this are also getting interested in well, knowing more about the ID market and the
Would be nice.
why high proposal protocol. What do you call it? Why?
Yeah, why high improvement proposal?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like
so-
the standard way, but
Yeah.
we're thinking of other ways too.
Yeah. Okay. I think that it's actually a long talk. That's probably what happens when two academics speak together. It's not fast. It's more about like discussing things in perhaps more detail than sometimes people think is needed. So you have to bear with that. We'll probably make some shorter content as well on this channel as well. But anyhow, thank you very much, Mark, for joining in. I'm sure we'll continue this journey together, and we'll probably see each other more in one way or another in online or in the future. So
Yes, thanks very much for also having me. I also had explicit. I have to also say hi from Sam. So I was just talking with him, and he wanted to send his greetings.
Then those greetings are online now. So
yes, yeah. So I will make him watch this video. So, but it was a pleasure. I really enjoyed, and thanks also for giving this room and space. I think it's really cool what you're doing with Srcful. Also having like the energy and capacity to come on the weekend and to host different guests. It's like I think really making this DePIN space come together, grow together. It's like really good.
Okay, so we should take a new listen into the DePIN song now. So
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Right.
Step into the neon lights. Let's take a ride into the gray where the future is alive. We're talking about the Web3 revolution, energy systems and a DePIN evolution. Yeah, it's a digital symphony, a decentralized energy in the world of connection. Oh, so talk is our destination. Web3 fascination. Get ready for the revolution. Here we go.